Good afternoon, gang. It's David Guppel, Thinker Farmer here. I'm with a good friend and a man who's been in the regenerative ag movement for several decades, Bill Hodge. And anyway, Bill, thank you for being on the channel today. And it's really an honor to get to meet you in person. We've had several conversations and really enjoyed interacting with you. And I kind of can't believe I get to be here. It's fun for me to be doing this before I go home for my Christmas break. I kind of want to hear some about your story in farming. It just kind of, I mean, there's a lot to tell from your story, but if you would briefly, what's your background in regenerative ag?
I'm 73 years old, and my regenerative ag experience is not doesn't span nearly as many years as I've been on this planet.
Yeah.
Some of us had to learn the hard way, and have some very expensive experiences before we realized that we weren't doing things like we need to ensure that there will be future generations that can do and experience some of the same things that we have.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I guess my regenerative experience, as I had mentioned to you sometime back, our first conversation, David, was during my tenure working at the University of Georgia. I had been to several hundred miles south of here, still in the state, and done a program for a group of cattlemen, encouraging them to participate in looking at value-added opportunities for their calves and their yearlings by sending them to a feedlot several thousand miles from here.
Wait, you were encouraging them to value add them by sending them to a feedlot?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that's it was more financially rewarding to them to do that than it was to send them to the stockyard like they had been doing.
Wow.
But on the way home that night, in the middle of the night, I had this road to Damascus moment. I thought, heavens, this doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, we're sending cattle from here thousands of miles away, and they're feeding them in a system that is not sustainable.
Right.
And then the meat is processed, and all that product is shipped several thousand miles back to us. So our food miles on those
it's kind of ridiculous.
It is. It just made no sense, but that's what I have been trained to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just had this revelation that a cow was put on this earth to graze riding through the middle of the night in rural Georgia.
Wow.
Years ago. And that's what started the journey. And soon after that, I started researching and visiting people. I went up for one of Joel Salatin's, I think he called them Discovery Days.
Yeah, they still have them. They call them PIDs.
Okay.
In Discovery seminars. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 2-day, and we were all over Joel's farm. And interestingly, I grew up in the same county that Joel is from.
Oh, wow.
I remember his mom was an English teacher at another high school in the county where I was, and I was active in a program, forensics program, where I read prose and poetry competitively.
Wow.
And I knew who she was because she coached the team from that high school.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went up and spent several days at Joel's place, and then started going to conferences and seminars. Went to the Acres
Yeah.
conference. Slow Foods.
Yeah.
Allen Nation used to with Stockton Grass Farmer prior to his.
So this is not, I mean, Allen Nation's been gone now 7 or years or so. So most of this, going to these conferences and doing this, I mean, when did do you remember the year you started making the shift in your thinking?
Oh, it would have been about 95, maybe.
Wow, that's the year I was born.
Yeah, my oldest grandson. So 18-year-old twins. You'll be talking about something and they'll say, "You mean way back in the 19s?"
Makes you feel old.
Yes,
Man.
Way back in the 19s, guys. So anyway.
Oh man.
But yeah, the mid-90s. But I kept all that in mind. I was reading the Stockman Grass Farmer, and Acres, and then there was a group based in Arkansas, the Southern Sustainable Agriculture Working Group, Southern SOG they called it.
Okay.
And they're no longer active, but there is their foundation organization is still there. The national called NCAT, N-C-A-T. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it has been funded by Congress for years, and it's kind of in those days it was. I figured out it was the go-to source for information regarding sustainable agriculture. The universities were not promoting anything near that, primarily because so much of the research in those institutions is funded by Big Ag, and the research information that's coming out of there to me is quite skewed in the wrong direction. But anyway, Southern SOG was another source, and in fact
yes, I'm somewhat familiar with them. Are they still operating, or not really?
Not in a way that they were doing it.
Okay.
They used to have an annual conference somewhere within the southeastern U.S. I know we went to a number of them throughout the southeast, and also spoke at a number of them too, on grazing and multi-species grazing and more rotational instead of mob grazing in those days. But we were gaining traction and learning more all the time. I recall first time I met Greg Judy was at an Allen Nation. Stockman Grass Farmer Conference. I can't remember if it was the one in Atlanta or the one in Dallas, but he and Jan were there speaking, and I would like you. I was keeping these contacts and whatever, and then here a number of years later we started some. This is while I was with the University of Georgia in this particular county here. I had Greg in for a program. He was here for 2 or 3 days. And then Joel also.
Wow, same program?
Nope.
Or no, different one?
Different year.
Different year, yeah.
Yeah, a number of people like that. And then also had a guy in here, you may know him, he's of my era, but he was a animal scientist on staff at the University of Missouri that Southern SOG hired him away from, and he and a veterinarian of the same mindset would always, we're always in charge of the animal portion of these Southern Sog conferences, named Dr. Ron Morrow.
Okay.
He's still in Arkansas, but he was a great guy and very open and helpful. We would do pasture walks at those conferences on farms somewhere in the region, and he most of the time led those things, and it was very informative. So many of the participants at those conferences were very much novices, and he could take technical information and soil health and forages and whatever, and put it on a very understandable level for those people. So with that, my interest continued to grow, and the learning curve for me from what I had been advocating in this paradigm shift was just straight up. I mean,
wow.
I had to learn everything, but it's pretty basic. You're boil it down, it's working in harmony with Mother Nature.
That's right. Yes.
This isn't rocket science.
We don't have to overcomplicate it. That's exactly right.
So anyway.
Yeah.